Moving to item number 2, 2016-17 Housing Successor Funding for the Antioch Home Ownership Program. Turn it over to Forrest Ebbs.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to very quickly turn this over to Terry House, my resident expert on all things housing.
Thank you. Before you this evening is a recommendation from the CDBG Council Subcommittee for funding for this current year, fiscal year 16-17, to begin the process of establishing a new homeownership program here in the city of Antioch. Formerly, we had one that was funded with redevelopment agency dollars, where the city subsidized the down payment, offering real dollar down payment assistance to low-income potential homeowners here in the city of Antioch. Generally, we've funded their down payment assistance anywhere between $25,000 to perhaps $50,000 worth of subsidy. When the foreclosure crisis hit, unfortunately, we saw a lot of the units go into foreclosure, and we lost a fairly substantial amount of money, almost $400,000. And so we were trying to put together a program that would minimize the risk to the city and still enable people to purchase homes here that are lower income, that have incomes below 80% of the area median income. And we started working with the provider that used to run the program for the city of Antioch and 13 other jurisdictions in a joint powers authority that we had participated in. When they started taking a look at the numbers, they were rather shocked to find that in the transactions over the last couple of years, the proportion of homes that were sold to investors far outstripped the proportion that was sold to homeowners. In fact, it was the inverse of what it is in most counties or most cities. So we want to correct that. So we have residents that buy homes here in Antioch, set down their roots here in Antioch, participate in government and schools, and offer a productive life for those low-income people who want to live here and purchase homes. We believe that we've come up with a program that enables us to do that, and fortunately the CDBG subcommittee had 2 realtor persons on it, so they had a great background as to how that might work here, and thought that was a good program worth putting some money into to see if that actually will work for us. It's risk-free for the city at this point because we have $35,000 in legal funds that just came back to us from this very same entity, so we would just be drawing upon those funds. For this first year, the amount that they're requesting is $17,000, I think, $250 in housing successor funds. We just deposited the $35,000 check from them as well for that. And then going forward, depending on how the program launches and what kinds of success we're seeing here, we're looking at anywhere about $50,000 per year over the next 3 years to pilot this program. The program would include fiscal management, financial responsibility classes for these individuals, assistance with getting their credit repaired if that's what's necessary, working with the Consumer Credit Council, which is going by a different name, but essentially helping them to become credit-worthy and prepare for home ownership here in the city, and then putting together packages of subsidy that currently exist out there. So you spoke about the county resources that are there. They would definitely be tapping into any county resources that existed, and we've had talks with my colleagues there at the county level, as well as the WISH program. Various banks have programs for grant funds, and working with also some of our major employers to see if we can get them to contribute to offering some subsidy or matching funds with potential homeowners so that they have a stable workforce here in the city of Antioch. So we're going to be trying lots of different things to try and make this a go without having to actually invest city dollars in this down payment program. And the program before you tonight is looking for approval or consideration of $17,250 from the Housing Successor Agency funds.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Comments? Councilmember Thorpe.
Go ahead.
Oh. I had a question, and I hope it's not deviating too much from here, but you know the numbers that from the housing prices and or housing sales in 2015, have we seen a shift in that yet? Or let me back up. Do we see the same trend in Brentwood, Oakley, or in Pittsburgh?
The same trend being what?
Trend here where investors versus homeowners.
I don't have that, but generally where I've looked in the other cities, no, it's the inverse.
Oh.
So it's usually about 60 to 65% homeowners and the remainder being investors. And our recent trends have been the exact opposite.
Wow. Okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, and why is it that Antioch has this challenge?
Well, we were the city that had the most foreclosures during the foreclosure crisis, and during that time, a lot of investors snapped up properties that were underwater, and so we've kind of ended up with a off-kilter homeownership rate.
So I understand that, but I was concerned that it was as recent as 2015.
Yeah.
So to me that's alarming, because we still haven't. That means we still haven't. It seems very alarming to me that everywhere else, this doesn't seem to be a problem. Home prices, of course, are on the rise, but they seem to be higher in other areas, except for Antioch. Up 10%. And so I was just curious, but I do like what we're doing here. And
So all that to say, they're up 10% from last year, home prices. So over this last year, according to Zillow.com, which, believe it or not, is one of the worst. No, it's of the resources out there. I know Realty tracks better, but it's on the rise, no matter which.
comparatively
index you
with
use.
other cities like Brentwood, Oakley, and Pittsburgh,
Yeah, that would be
we
a good.
we still find ourselves doing things or not doing things, experiencing things like this very exact thing here,
Yeah, I think that investor ratio is definitely a conundrum, something we should.
as well as the home values.
Yes.
And so maybe that's a question for a different discussion, but I'm just, I'm alarmed by it.
Great. Yeah.
Councilmember Tiscarino.
Yeah, considering what Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe was, trying to get out of you, for some reason, Antioch just happened to be the one that suffered, and it's unfortunate. You would think that being, the third and now the second largest city in the county, that we would have areas that the houses are at value, but we're struggling. But we understand that. But it's nothing that we did. It's what happened with the economy, and something we have to deal with. When I heard this at the subcommittee, I was very excited about that, because we are trying to find a way to find housing for folks that live in Antioch that can't really afford to live at home, and we do have a vast amount of folks that do rent in the city of Antioch that have an opportunity, as the mayor spoke earlier during the presentation, that have an opportunity to buy, but they need a little bit of help. Seems like Antioch happens to be that affordable area for them to purchase. And what I like about this is, you have identified the areas, you identified the investor versus the homeowner and renter, and those are good. That's good data to abide by, and we ought to be using that to our advantage. So there's folks out there that we need to be looking at and pursuing. I think when we have folks that are purchasing their house, they seem to take care of it a little bit better. One of the biggest issues we've heard since I've been in council is blighted areas. So this is something that is a win-win, I believe, and really at no cost, because we are getting gifted some money in return. So when I heard this, I heard the presentation, I had no hesitation about supporting this. So I'm hoping that my council mates agree. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Ogorchak.
Well, I was excited with this program also. A few years ago, they had a program, a bank did, and this program will implement a similar, where homeowners that want to buy in this program, they have to go through a process. And the process is learning how to be a homeowner, how to be a responsible homeowner, what to do, and how to do it, and where to go to get your answers. So a lot of people buy and they don't know what they've gotten themselves into. But now through this program, the ones that are buying will have a certificate, which isn't a lot, but it actually means a lot to them because they've actually completed a course on how to be a good homeowner. And that's what's lacking, I think, a lot of times, is a good homeowner. We do have a problem in Antioch. There is no inventory. So we're very low on the inventory. And with that, the prices are going to go up. And with BART coming, the prices are still going to go up, especially within a 5-mile radius. And I don't mean zigzag, it's a radius, and it's like 25%. So those homes are really going to increase. But I would like to ask the gentleman, if we can, Walter, why Antioch? And the reason I want to ask him if he can come up and share with us is he talked about Antioch being the perfect storm. So I want to ask him to share why Antioch would be the perfect storm for this program and why it would work here in Antioch. Thank you, Walter.
This is our project proponent, Walter Zobroff.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. The perfect storm. Well, it was interesting because Antioch was a former member of our predecessor organization, which was East Bay Delta Housing Finance Agency, and Antioch was very supportive about us moving ahead and actually creating the SUCCESSOR organization. So why did I get motivated? I said, Antioch helped us. We should help Antioch. So that's how it started, and it was just kind of a fluke thing. But once we started, our background is that we actually do a lot of market study and a lot of real estate analysis. And upon doing the market study, the main elements, some of them have already been brought up. One of the biggest elements for the perfect storm is the cost of rental in the city. And virtually the cost of rental, once we provide subsidies that we're looking at for home ownership, is higher than the cost of home ownership, potentially, of home ownership for people to buy at the current median prices in the city of Antioch. So that's the first thing. The second thing was another thing that you brought up, which is the ratio of renters to owners. You know, we looked at that as a need. It was like, wow, this is happening in this city. We need to try to invert it. You know, as an organization, this is a city that needs help with that. So that was the second element of it. The third element was the pricing of the property. And actually, we conducted vast studies from 2015 to 2016, and we looked at the pricing. And the city of Antioch, for whatever reason it is, ended up being one of the least expensive cities in the region. So when we took those three elements, it was like, this program can really work. The fourth element is that there are actually resources in existence. And, you know, the WISH program was mentioned. Well, that's a $15,000 down payment assistance program, which is actually a grant. In 5 years, it's forgiven. So automatically a homeowner accumulates $15,000 of equity. We're working with a number of other organizations, including the Golden State Finance Authority, which is providing a 5% down payment grant. It's not a loan, it's a grant. We're working with the CDFI, which I haven't even had a chance to tell Terry about. It's a community development funding institution. It's a nonprofit which has informed us that they may have up to $30,000 of down payment assistance. So when we combine all these resources, we're all of a sudden able to approach households who are at 80% median income and be able to truly offer them a resource. The interesting part is with the pricing the way it is right now, am I out of time? With the pricing the way it is right now, this is another element with the perfect storm type of situation, and that is with the pricing, we actually can service 80% medium households, and the pricing out of approximately, I believe it was close to 1,200 sales between 2015 and 2016 that we studied, 1,100 of those sales were affordable by an 80% median income household, which I have not seen anywhere in the Bay Area region. So to us, this was the perfect storm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Yes, I just had one question. I don't know if it's to you or if it's to Terry. In the report, and I really kind of like this, you talk about one of the resources being an employer match. Basically, you have a participant whose employer that's going to potentially match them. And I think I'm really encouraged by that because that encourages, the homeownership, planting their roots here. If either one of you can talk about that more, because it was literally like 2 sentences in the report, and I remember thinking I would love to hear more about that.
Obviously, there's no guarantee for that, but I think one of our responsibilities as our organization, and I have to say partly from the city's perspective, is to educate employers, is to go out there and say, look, you can help your employees. This is a great way to help the community, and it's a great way to maintain stabilization in the community. And so why don't you start thinking about providing a match? Well, we've also found ways in which an employer can provide a match in the form of a loan as well, and actually make some yield, actually yield some benefits from it, including, retaining their employees. And also from a tax perspective, not treated as part of their salary or part of their bonus. So there's a multitude of benefits that we found, or multitude of strategies which we can employ to have the employer contribute. It's a function of educating and motivating them. And that's where we need to work in partnership with the city and, provide them the education and understanding how they can do it and how they can do it successfully.
Sorry about that. I like it because it encourages the workforce housing, and we kind of alluded to it earlier that we have people that fall in that income bracket where they're the renters. They're probably paying more in rent than they would be paying on a house payment.
I drive down and look at a Costco and I'm going, homeowners. All the employees. They're paid enough to actually be able to afford a home in Antioch. Same
Very
thing
good.
with a lot of people in Target, lots of employers. I look at there, I believe that might have been the police chief that I moved from my seat. And I look at, perhaps new recruits that are coming in. We could help them as well.
Very good. Thank you. This sounds like a great program. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that the City of Antioch, as housing successor to the Antioch Development Agency, approve the funding recommendations of the CDBG subcommittee and then adopt the resolution allocating housing successor funding for the Antioch Homeowner Program to be implemented by the Bay Area Affordable Home Ownership Alliance beginning in fiscal year 2016-17.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Tiscarino. Please cast your votes.
There are 5 affirmative votes.
Item number 2 passes. Thank you. Item number 3.